All right, this is going to be my little onboarding video for version 6. This is version 6 right now in front of you. You can see it's a little different if you came from V5 Pro. That's because for the longest time, V5 Pro was Mac only, and we were using the Plus platform, which was Mac and Windows compatible, to sort of do both. So I've ported as much as I could see was missing in V5 Pro to this, and this is currently the look. You'll see that over here in colors, there is a lot more customization that you can do. And so the one I'm using right now is called Winter Walker. I can reset it to the V5 look, which is more grayish. There is also this weird thing called Red Scorpion. That's sort of an inside joke, but there's Optics and Design Gray. If anyone is a fan of Severance, you'll know what that is. Anyway, this is the Winter Walker. And you'll see over here I've got my rotary waveform, and by default it's set to be colored. And you can change that here under waveform, which is color the rotary waveform. So if I turn this off, you'll see it's just plain. So it's just showing me the waveform in a circular manner. So if I turn this back on, you'll see it's colored. Now, those colors represent the dominant frequency of the sound. So the darker it is, so reddish, is going to be deeper. Something like that. Let's see what else we got. I can tell that this it's going to be mid-rangey. Same with that. You've also got this option to view X-ray waveforms, and I'll admit that they're cool looking, but I tend to keep them off. So I'm just going to view the auto detector regions. I'm going to turn that off just so it's a little clearer to see what's happening. So here we go. So right away, I can tell it's split basically the sound up into 4 frequency bands. So red is the lower frequency, and then green, and then purple, and then your bright is white. So there isn't much white in the sound, so I can say that it's going to be pretty low frequency, which it is. So what we got here? Oh, we've got a lot of white and not much red. So this is going to have mostly high frequency and some mid-range. And sure enough, there it is. So you can decide what's useful to you. So, like I said, I tend to keep it off, even though I spent weeks on it. I find that this is enough for me. I can see as I'm scrolling through what's happening. Anyway, so that is that. And then there's also, I should mention that the key commands are all assignable. So everything you can do inside SoundMiner now is called a command. And you can see there's quite a huge list. You can assign a key command or multiple key commands to do certain things. Most of the key commands are all the same. I think the exception might be spot to DAW. You might want to set it to BS. Oh, I have in this one. Maybe I've already done it for mine, but it might be like Control S or Command S. Oh, excuse me, I feel something coming on. I'm still COVID positive. I'm doing this. I'm feeling okay, but anyway, that's what's happening with my voice. Anyway, okay, what else can we show real quick? Some of the money features are you've got a reverse button here, and as the sound is playing, you can reverse it, and you can see the waveform will change. Let's see what else we got here. There we go. And it's not just for auditioning. If you transfer, or if you mark a section of a sound and you tag it, it will also transfer reversed. And it's smart enough that if you notice I've marked a selection and I hit reverse, the actual in and out point will change as well. So if I, for instance, chose the section at the end here, just make it a little clearer, when I reverse the sound, well, it's going to be at the beginning. So just small little things like that. Also, it's worth mentioning that the entire graphics framework, or whatever it uses to draw the interface, is now using Metal on Mac. It's using OpenGL on Windows, although that may change to be DirectX or something like that. We'll see how it goes. That just means that I can, right now I'm running this on a 4K monitor, I can push a ton of pixels and it's going to be very, very fast. Everything is very optimized. So zooming in on a waveform and zooming out of a waveform is super speedy. Even stuff like if I turn on my X-ray waveforms again, this is all rendered on the GPU, which is your graphics card, which means I can zoom in and out, and everything just stays nice and smooth like butter. Again, it probably doesn't mean much to a lot of people, but it's a couple of weeks of my life, so I like to at least explain what I was doing for those few weeks. Okay, so we got that as well. The reverse button, a nice quick way to toggle fields on and off. You've got this way, just right click on whatever column you want and choose, say, like effects name. But you've also got this option here, which is to click on fields. And I can type something like category, and it will take me there. And if that's not the one I want, I can hit down arrow. And it'll take me to the next one that matches cat. And then I can hit the space bar to toggle it on. I can also click and drag to rearrange. You can see it's changing the order in the background there. So category, there we go. So nice fast ways of getting what fields you want to be visible. Let's see if there was something else. Maybe I wanted to have volume, get that one, get source up, get that, path name if that's interesting, do that. And then I can also toggle these ones on as well if I wanted. Anyway, so there's that. And then you've got the quick key. I've got it assigned to Z. That will just rearrange all the columns so that they'll match real quick. You've got in your right-hand panel now, like you've always had this sort of description and stuff in the metadata panel, but as soon as you expand and it moves over a certain point like that, you'll see it goes into this old mode, which is sort of like how the old Command I on V4 used to work. So I don't want to mess this up too much. Let me just go to this database here. Okay, so let's say I wanted to change the designer. So I can go into write mode here if I click on the pencil, and then I can, sorry, Alex, I'm just going to appropriate your sounds. So if I type in my name, it's now going to assign those to all those records that I've got selected. So if I viewed designer again, that's not the one I wanted. That's the one I want. So now you can see I've got Justin Drury assigned. You can also tab through all of the fields. So if you wanted to change the description and also whatever, I don't know, junk. I'm really messing things up. But you can see it's nice and easy, fast way for you to modify the sounds. Other things that have changed is if I go to Boom Library and view artwork, this is the old mode of viewing, which is basically all of the artwork that's inside the database, and it's in no particular order. What's new is you can change the artwork size, so you can zoom in all the way and zoom out all the way. And of course, because this is Retina, it all looks super nice to me. Nice crisp graphics, but there's also this mode here to go to library mode. So this is now going to show me, let's see, do I have library visible? Library. So you can see like I've got assault weapons, cinematic, creatures, construction kit, open explosion silencers. Oh, there's a few missing there. Should probably fix that metadata, but anyway, creatures humanoid and aquatic predators. So for each one of those libraries, the artwork image is pulled and you get this little tag in the upper right that shows you how many records are inside each one of those libraries. So if I called up aquatic predators right now by Boom, I get 179 records. If I want brute force, 216. And again, I can do this. So it's just a nice way to browse through your library. If you were more show oriented, this one isn't. You can also do the same thing by show. So if you have a show field, perhaps it's listing all of the sounds that were used in a particular show or movie or TV series, then you could see like the artwork images, poster images, all that kind of stuff. And when you roll over, it tells you what the library is, or in the case of show, it will show you what the show is. So that's what that does. You can also, if you've only got a few records of each library, like maybe you've got one or two individual little samples, you can set a limit that shows, I only want to show records which are 10 or higher. Let's see if I've got any that are really, really small in this one. Not really. Let's go to scan test. Nope. Let's say maybe something will be small. No, they've all got lots and lots of material. Anyway, you get the idea of what it does. It will just remove anything that's less. You've also now in the left-hand panel, you can select multiple items. So it used to be if I wanted to get all the sounds that were in Metal Groans and Slams, I would click on it. And if I wanted Metamorphosis, I would click on it and same thing. But if I wanted both, there was no way of doing it before. Now you can use the Command key or Option key or Control key, I think, on Alt Option on Windows. I got to get my head into Windows land still. Anyway, you can do that, or you can shift click to do multiple, and you can see it will expand here. And if you run out of room, it will start shrinking down whatever gets displayed. So now that's showing me all the records that are in either Borax Experiment, Ultrasonic, Dry Ice, or Water volumes. And what you can also do is right click now on one of these facets and you can say lock. And then you get a little padlock icon right there, which means that now whatever I do, I can shrink this down. It's only going to bring back sounds from those 3 libraries. So when I do a find all, like I just did there, bring back 1170. If I do a search for plumber, there we are. So it's searching for plumber, but only inside those 3 libraries. So if I go to a bigger one, like boom, and let's have a look. I'm using path name, but I could be viewing a library as well. So let's just say creature foley. These 2. I'm going to lock my results. And now when I do a search for small, it's only going to be from the creature foley. All of these, if I view library, you can see it's only from there. If I search all again, it's only from them. So it allows you to really narrow everything down to a specific set of libraries without having to, you could do that before, you could use the lock icon here, but now there's sort of like no ambiguity. It's like, no, this is what I want to lock on, this little facet right here. Let's see if there's multiple designers. There isn't in this one. But yeah, you could chain multiple together. So if you said, I want to have this path name and this sound designer, you could also lock the designer as well to be able to really narrow things down. Like for instance, I've got the foliage crowdsource here. There's a lot of designers and also an awful lot of folders. So this is, in this case, it's going to bring back everything that's inside the foliage library. So I'm going to lock it. And then under the designer, I'll just go to, who did I think it was Alex that I messed up before, right? So we'll go to Alex and we're going to lock him. So now find all, there we go. If I do a search for clump, there we go. If I do a search for dog, there isn't, and it tells me right there that the search term wasn't found. If I do a search for single, again, it's just going to be Alex's sounds inside that foliage library. So very nice. You can even exclude. So, I liked Alex, but I can also exclude him. So now it's searching everything inside the foliage library for everybody except for poor Alex. So now Alex is missing. So if I do a search for shake, there we go. What were some of the other ones that I searched for? Plump. Anyway, so that's nice. And again, it can be multiple people as well. So if you're like, well, sorry, Alex, and sorry, Axel, you're both excluded from the club. And you can see they get removed from the designer list as well when I do a find all. So you can also use that for like libraries, if there's certain libraries you want to omit from your database. Very powerful. Also in the left filter panel now, you've got your calendar searches. So you can see sounds that were scanned in from a specific date, or when metadata changed, and you get this little calendar thing that pops up. Under Advanced Find, you can also go description, and you can do regex patterns. So if for instance, they'll match absolutely everything. So pretty useless. But those that know regex, you can do all kinds of crazy things in there. It is case sensitive, and there is an option to do a \I to make it insensitive search. Again, it's real power user stuff, so I'll just kind of, keep going over that. Plus users that are using this version now, you've got, this was in v5 before, you can match all of the terms or match any. So match all is like doing an AND search, match any is like doing an OR search. So that's what those do. I've shown that. There's also this fancy little icon here, which allows you to do tabs. And this is something that people have asked me for years to be able to do. So let's say you're working away on something and you're like, well, this is really great. I don't want to lose my results. Maybe I want to swap to even my spotting database. Maybe I've got sounds in here I want to look at. So I just create a new tab. And you can see I can toggle back and forth between the two. The little red underline shows me which tab is currently active. And then if I wanted to swap this one into the browser, I get a new tab called my spot database. So there's all my spot items, and you see everything is all disabled right now. This just to stop people from doing silly things. Anyway, if I swap it back, then I've now got my two views, if you will. So right now, this tab is referencing the same database, which is my foliage DB. Let me change this down. Let's just adjust some fields. So we're just going to turn off a bunch of stuff that isn't being used. Let's do that. And let's change some columns around, move these around to here. There we go. So now I've got this view basically into the database, and I can swap tabs, and I've got another view. But it doesn't just have to be the same database. You can choose a different database. So now I've got my boom and I've got my foliage, and I can just toggle between them. Now, what's really cool is over here is an option that's grayed out right now because it's not active. If I click this, it will say search tabs. So anything that I do is now going to search across all my open tabs. So it's a way to search across multiple databases in this case. So if I do a search for thick, you can see it's colored the background, which means that it's found results in each one of the tabs. So I can instantly see, okay, well, I got thick results in whatever this was, foliage. If I swap to boom, I got thick results on this one as well. Now your tabs can be saved and restored right here. And there's an option to auto restore the tabs manually or on launch or on server connection. On server connection, you'd want that if you're connecting to a centralized database, which is when you've got the little omega signs in front of your databases, which means it's going to hold off on trying to restore the tabs until you're actually authenticated and you have access to your databases. That's all it means. Anyway, in this case, I'm going to restore the tabs. So there they are. And you can see in these ones, what I've done is I've right-clicked on them and you can rename them. So this one I've named to be neon, and I can clear it out as well. And everything gets saved. So whatever pills or facets you had get saved. Its lock status gets saved. So in this case, I can see who the designer, Michael Schwendler from Boom Library. I can see all of his sounds just by going to his specific tab. I can see Boom's creatures humanoid just by clicking on that tab. And if I wanted, again, to search across all of them, we'll go big. Let's see what comes back. Well, there was nothing big in creatures humanoid because it didn't get colored. But monsters and beasts, it had a bunch. So did Michael's, and so did the foliage. So very cool, right? Another fun thing you can do with tabs is you can drag results from one tab to another. So in this case, I've got my RAM database. It has no sounds in at the moment. So I can just choose these sounds. If I click and drag onto the RAM DB, there we go. And now if I find all the sounds are now inside that database. Now that's all permission. Excuse me, I'm going to have to cough again. That's all sort of permission related. So you have to have permission to be able to scan sounds into a database for that to work. Normally you will, unless you're a server user. There's a bunch of other options to move tabs to the top. You can exclude certain tabs from text searches. Most of this stuff is pretty self-explanatory, so I won't go into it at this point in time. Okay, another fun thing you can do. Let's take a sound right here. Something that a lot of people do. I'll just put this onto my desktop. Where did I put it? What was it called? Armor? Yeah, there we go. So I'll scan that sound back in. So a lot of times people will modify a sound. Either they find some sound that has some silence in it, or maybe they want to use RX or something to, denoise it. In this case, I'm going to use an application called Fission to open it. This could be RX as well. Fission, obviously, if I go and delete, why don't I delete a whole bunch of things? There we go. So now I've only got 4 items inside the sound. When I save it, it's going to strip any SoundMiner metadata inside the sound, which is very normal. That is what RX does, even though I wish they didn't, but they do. Anyway, when you swap back to SoundMiner, you get this message that says, oh, this file doesn't contain any SoundMiner metadata. Would you like to embed it now? And you just go, okay. So it recognized that the file had changed. And you can see the waveform gets redrawn, or the overviews all get redrawn. Everything gets recalculated because it knows the file had changed. So that only works for whatever you've got selected, and it only happens when you swap back into SoundMiner. It does a little check, if you will, and goes, has the file changed? Is it new? And if it has, then you get that prompt. So I think that's going to be pretty useful for anyone that does any sort of like editing of their sound files outside of SoundMiner, and they're always worried about, oh, I had metadata in the file, but now, I used RX and now it stripped it all out, or perhaps your waveforms become stale. You've removed a few items and you swap back and it doesn't line up anymore. So that will fix that. Another quick thing, I'm not going to get into Radium today because my voice is just not going to be able to make it. Is you've got a little option here for effects. So this right now, because my hardware, and I can set my hardware out now to be set up output device. It used to be that it always followed your main output. Now you can actually choose a device and say what the sample rate is. In this case, I'm using a 7.1 interface that I've only got hooked up to 6 channels. But I've got it set up to 48K, which means my highest, my Nyquist, is 20 kilohertz. So that's what my spectrum frequency is showing right there. If I was to change this, I won't because I think it will probably screw up audio hijack. If I change this to, say, 96K, then my Nyquist would then be at 48, and I would see all of the higher frequencies there. And it's smart enough, if I go to boom multi-channel, I know these are all 5-channel sounds, so it was monitoring just 2 channels. So now, when I play, there's my 5. Anyway, so these are all the Radium effects, and they're slowly being made multi-channel, and you can apply them. So if we want to have ring modulator, let's see if we can find something with a bit more gusto to it. There we go. Yeah, so now you can hear the ring mod. Oh, put the flanger on. And if there's options here to process the audio through the effects rack into Radium. So why don't we do that? Let's do something really nasty. We'll go to the saturator, crank the amount up. Let's really distort the crap out of it. There we go. Throw in some more distortion. There, complete mess. So if I loaded this up into Radium now, there we go, complete mess. I won't play it. I don't want to kill everyone's speakers. So now if I turn all this stuff off, I'll reset some of these things, move to a different record. inside Radium, if I record the sound, and I can just clear this, I don't need to see it anymore. So record like normally, and then you've got this option here for effects. And if I click that, watch what happens to the rack. So it restores whatever settings I used to load that sound into Radium. Very cool. But it doesn't just have to go into Radium. You can transfer a sound file just through this built-in little quick rack if you want. And you'll get the same kind of thing when you record the sound, or when you load the sound back into SoundMiner, you'll be able to see it. There's that. I think that's probably going to be enough for my little onboarding video. I don't think there's too much more for that. Oh, well, I may as well go through some of these things. Okay, let's say that I've got this surround sound thing going, but I'm only working on headphones. Well, I can now down mix whatever I'm monitoring. This is only for monitoring, doesn't affect any sort of transfers at all. So it's going to take my surround sound and it's going to stereo down mix it. So if no, it's not going to make much sense. It's still going to show. But yeah, you would hear this. Let's see, maybe, is there, gotta think. Yes, I've got some surround files here.
Left, center, right, left side surround, right side surround.
So you should be hearing those because it's getting down mixed. If I say not enabled, so this would be normal. So normally it is going to try and play them out of each of the speakers, which means that you should hear this one, not hear this one, but hear this one.
Left, center, right.
Now in my studio, I'm hearing all of these play out of my speakers, but because we're only capturing in stereo, you shouldn't be. Now, if you were in a surround studio and environment and you wanted to hear everything through your center channel, say you're doing lots of dialogue, you have this option to sum everything and have it all come out the center channel. I mean, this isn't going to work for you, but I'm hearing everything come out of my center channel right now. So that's what the monitoring fold down does. There's also an option under the DSP rack. Not only does it support VST3 now, audio units is still preferred because audio unit, we get some free bridging from Apple Silicon to Intel and all this other stuff. So on Mac, audio unit should be the one you go to first. But yeah, moved on to VST3. There's also a SoundMiner plugin now called Fold Down. And I'll just go to a stereo sound to make it kind of easy. Well, it's just a mono, but whatever. So you've got polarity inversion. That's going to flip the phase 180 degrees. You can mute a channel. You can solo a channel. You can turn a channel into a side channel. So that's for MS. So it'll take that channel, and on one side it will play it normally, and on the other side, I'm talking about left and right when I say side, it's going to automatically flip the polarity 180 degrees, and then you can mix in how much side you want. And then a high pass filter, I think it's set to 80 hertz right now with I think 24 dB an octave kind of slope. So this is mainly for field recorders, have multiple channels, and they just want to be able to build up a composite mix. So in this case, it's not so interesting. Now, if I go to surround, Nathan Smith, I think, sent me some. Hopefully, are they in here? No, they're not. Where did I put them? Nathan, there we are. Okay, so he sent me some sound files for me to test with. So he's got some vacuums. So you can see it's expanded the number of channels. I can see all the channel names. I can even delay some of the channels. If I click and drag, I can delay one channel, I think up to a second. Yeah. I can pan over here and balance everything. Solo each of the elements. Those all sound very similar, but in this case, these are going to be different because I use the LOM mic. So there's that. I just loop over a section. So yeah, you can. Do all those kind of fun things. And it will transfer with that, and SoundMiner will treat it just like a regular plugin. So you'll be able to recall all the settings afterwards. You also get a sort of phase coherence meter here. So as long as it's like +1, that means everything's okay. As soon as you start getting into the -1, that means if you sum to mono, things are going to really start to fall apart. And then you've got your overall balance meter here, like how far something is right versus left. So if I moved all of these to the right, for instance, and play the sound, you'll see it moves all the way to the right. And let's just double click these to reset them. And I'll make this one aside, bring that up. And you'll see my phase coherence go a bit wonky. That's because I'm messing around with the phase of that one sound. So that's what that does. And then you've got a master bypass here to turn the whole thing on and off. Yeah, okay. So Radium will be a different video. There's an awful lot in there. There's a whole grain engine. There's a whole surround thing going on here. But yeah, I need to recover a little bit.